Welcome back to the From Field to Plate podcast. Today I'm here with Cameron, and it's Matt, correct? Cameron and Matt from
Yes.
Longshot Targets. I met Cameron in at SHOT Show. We were literally walking by. It was like our last day. We were walking by, and it turned. I was like, "That's a really cool product," and happens to know that Cameron follows. Cameron does a lot of stuff with kind of from field to plate style classes with some youth, and so we got chit-chatting. I was like, be great to have you guys on and talk about your product. So Matt, Cameron, how you guys doing today?
Doing good. Apologize in advance. I've been on the show circuit and got the little sniffles going on, so apologize in advance for that. But appreciate you having us.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat you are. Feels like I've shaken too many hands, and I don't know why I'm not dead yet. So and then Matt's sitting in his car. He's getting all ready. He's gonna have to leave halfway through this podcast. So if he bounces, it'll just be Cameron and I talking. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about who you guys are, and then we'll jump into kind of like what your company is and what it does. Because I think it's a phenomenal product, just from what I saw at SHOT Show and then what I've been researching at home. Because I take out so many new hunters that this is something that I look at. It's game changing, the factor of taking out a brand new hunter and putting it behind a rifle for the first time and being able to explain, what they're doing. So kind of jump in wherever you guys want to start of who you are, kind of what you guys do, and then we'll get into the company.
Yeah, 100%. So, like I said, my name is Cameron Caulfold, VP of Sales and Marketing for Longshot Target Cameras. So, brief overview. Longshot makes products that, for lack of a better explanation, solve a pinch point in the shooting industry. Our target cameras are wireless cameras that are mounted downrange and give a user the ability to have a live video stream right on their phone or tablet. On our long range product, we guarantee 2 mile range from camera to user. We also have another product that has a 300-yard guaranteed range. So kind of hits everything from your extreme long range shooter to your youth hunter that has to sight in a rifle at 100 yards before a deer hunt. We also make other accessories and bring in other products, really trying to, as shooters ourselves, see, visualize, and hear any type of pain point that, we wish there was a better solution for, or we see a better solution. So we either make or go source or, collaborate with other brands to kind of fully encompass what a shooter could need at the range or in the field. And I'll let Matt introduce himself, but I just wanted to give an overview, and Matt, you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So my name's Matt Hale, and I'm the creative director at Longshot Target Cameras. And my role is to expand our visual brand. And so that involves graphics and video and social marketing. And so we're really excited about where we're stepping into as a brand as well. We have a great product and it's really solid. And we think if people have it in their hands, they really will see the value in it. But the big thing that we're trying to do in my role in this is to try and show people who we are and that's a brand we can trust. So we're just trying to tell the Longshot story as a whole.
Nice. And kind of what is that story? Like, where did you guys get started? Because I know that it was founded and then you guys are working for it, but like, where's the story about, how Longshot got started and kind of what you guys are looking for in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. I'll answer this.
Yes.
So 2013, Clay Roden, our CEO and founder, was getting into shooting. At the time, he had bought an AR and was looking to sight it in, wasn't really into hunting, didn't grow up hunting, but post-college was helping with his father's business, who did wireless security camera monitoring. And he's always been techie engineer minded guy, loves to take stuff apart, put it back together. So he went to the range. He didn't have a spotting scope to help him out. So he kind of pulled a couple pieces together from the shop there, took wireless camera, piggybacked on a third party app that they use at the time for wireless monitoring, and was able to see his shot downrange in real time on his phone. And at the time, I was just kind of a friend in the equation who was a big outdoorsman, big hunter. He'd kind of pitched it to me, and he took a CNC router at his dad's shop and kind of built a prototype. And at this time, this is circa day 2013 or 12, somewhere in there. Um, the NRA show just happened to be in Houston, where our headquarters is, and he asked myself and his father and his father's business partner, who were all kind of co-creators on it, if we wanted to get a booth and see if the market was hungry for something like this. Um, and turns out there were a couple other companies in the space, but for lack of a better understanding, were prehistoric, like military grade, pulling cables and kind of like the old military field laptops that you kind of see in movies. This was the first with like an app-based use your personal device type of application. And so we took it to the NRA show and had a huge interest gauge. We actually sold 3 units and we only had one prototype.
Nice.
So yeah, we were like, I guess we need to figure out how to actually mass produce these things. And so yeah, that was 2013. Clay went to business school at the University of Texas and kind of always had a plan to start his own company. And so he took off one direction, and I took off into a career in another direction, but was always a part of it, kind of from the outside, either pro staffing with him, taking out prospective clients or investors, or content curating, just kind of doing it in my normal hunting, shooting life that I was doing for fun. And so, yeah, he grew it into the business that you see today. And then post COVID, when working remote started to become a thing, I live in Waco, which is the center of Texas. He lives in South Houston. So once it became I could actually live in Waco, where my wife has a career with Magnolia network design company. It kind of merged. Okay, I'm no longer going to do this on the weekends. I'm going to jump in with you, and so now I run our international sales, and then we have a rep group who runs our domestic sales that I oversee as well, and then work with Matt on the marketing and try to create a brand that people recognize. And the fact that you stopped where you were, and I know you were with a buddy who runs a hunting ranch, and we're able to see the product, catch your eye, and kind of get an idea of what we do all in an instant. I think is a testament to kind of Clay and Matt and everything we're doing on our side.
Yeah, I mean, SHOT Show was so full of just product, right? If you don't know what SHOT Show is literally shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show, and it's
overstimulating.
Yeah, I mean, we were there for 3 days and did not hit every single booth that people had, and we were just walking by and we were talking, and it caught my eye because you had it on the big screen about stuff, and I was telling Cody, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, because what I do is, I take my spotting scope, I attach my phone to it, and then I'm sitting there recording, and then I'm having to go back to the person that's shooting and taking it off the stand, and I was like, man, that'd be something awesome to be able to sit with the person next to them when they're shooting and show them live where their shots are versus having to keep getting up and down and taking your phone off or taking whatever is. And then it's still a spotting scope. So you're still looking through, you know, that little, and someone bumps it or it's shaky or the wind. And so it was just one of those deals where it just caught our eyes, and we got talking. So yeah, I think right off the bat, it was something that was different than what I've seen, and working in the industry, taking out a lot of people. Something that's different stands out because you watch around SHOT Show and it's all the same exact crap, with just a little bit, you know, of a different flair. We actually said, like, hey, I wonder how many companies actually manufacture AR parts, and how many of these companies just put their own brand on it and sell it. Because everything is, I mean, every gun was the same, every logo was the same, and it was kind of mind numbing. So it was cool to sit there and see something orange that wasn't a tactical vest or wasn't, you know, something that was just lame. And we didn't get that much time because literally we're leaving. I was taking him to the airport, I think, and it was just that last stop that we saw you and talked to you. And so yeah, I think that's a testimony to just kind of, and you only had like a 10x10 booth. It wasn't huge, so.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because the people next to us, they were fantastic, really on both sides, and they made the comment to us after. They were like, "Hey, we really enjoyed, you know, being next to you guys and learning about your products, and y'all were great, but y'all need a bigger booth." And we were like, "Yeah, between us and Silencer Shop across the way, you know, we were all kind of spilling out into the hallway."
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you liked the backdrop. That was something that Clay saw it somewhere. It's a vertical projector, and he showed me it. I was with him over Christmas. He showed it to me in his spare room. He's like, "What do you think about this for the backdrop of a booth?" I was like, "If we can have Matt create like just the content at his quality that is, you know, something that he can plug and play and change each night and update with visuals, like, let's do it."
Yeah, it was
So
awesome.
that was the first time I'd ever seen it, was around Christmas. And, you know, fast forward to January 15th, that was our SHOT Show backdrop.
Yeah, no. So good on you, Matt. That looked, if you were the one that was working that looked great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's funny how you talk about SHOT Show and how, you know, it was refreshing to see orange and something that was a little bit different. And while, yes, we're smaller than some of the bigger companies for sure, and especially in a 10x10 booth, we caught a lot of people's attention, which if we can just catch their attention, then we can bring them in, let them actually experience what it is that we do. We can tell them the narrative of Longshot. And so I think because we were separated and you know, in our visuals, and I think it brought people in. So, and I think it's just going to keep getting better and better. So,
yeah, I think, well, one thing for me, it's all about storytelling, right? I mean,
yep, absolutely.
I make a living on cooking dead animals. And if you say it that you know, if you just say, hey, you know, what do you do for a living? You know, you ever see those like Facebook things, like, tell us what you do for a living, but in a bad way, or, you know what I'm talking about? And I always be like, oh, I cook, you know, or I heat up dead animals over fire or something, you know, like if you look at the core of what it is we do, if you look at the core of what your product is, it's just a camera, right? But where's the story behind the camera, and what's the story behind bettering your shot? And it doesn't just have to be for hunters. It can be for youth. It can be for outdoorsmen. It can be for long range shooters. Anytime we can effectively create ourselves and tell a story and put it in a way that people want to stop and look at it, I think that's where that whole mindset comes. And so for us, walking through and seeing just the mind numbingness of everyone with the same exact thing, and seeing the 10x10, there was a story there that we had to stop and we had to say hi, even though we were literally leaving to go to the airport. And I think to me, that's where it was cool. And that's kind of why I wanted to get you guys on to talk just to kind of a little bit about what the product is, which Cameron talked about, you know, briefly, but kind of explain. I know you guys have like some different models, some different cameras. What are some things that, just say, you know, the average person going out there, you know, because you think about Mississippi to in that area, they're only shooting 200 yards. Like what's a product they can do, and how is this going to help them become a better shooter, a better hunter, a better teacher to their children or their spouses or whoever else? Like, kind of explain a little bit more on that aspect of it.
Yeah, so the product that would fit that niche, we call our Marksman, and so that is the camera standalone, which emits its own Wi-Fi signal, so you don't need any outside stuff. You don't need cell reception. You don't need an external Wi-Fi. You just turn it on, connect to it on your phone or tablet, and off you go. Um, it's a really great tool for just an interactive component to shooting. So too many people just go out and, before deer season, they're going to tack a backside of a corn bag with the target on it to a tree, shoot it 4 times, and then if they hit a 6-inch circle, at 100 yards, it's okay. That's good enough to kill it. Which, in my opinion, as a hunter and a shooter, I find that to be a disservice. Like if you're going to ethically shoot something, you need to be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Instead of shooting wounded animals, especially in those areas where how thick they are, being able to recover them. So, I would say using our products gives you an interactive uh, experience in shooting where you can visibly see in real time the downrange target. The cameras are about 15 to 20 feet away from the target in a 3K megapixel resolution. So a very clear and defined picture where you can zoom in on your phone or tablet. And in our app can go in and do everything from physically marking a shot. So I can tell you which shot is mine, which shot is yours. Measuring group size. So if you're going to, take a group of hunters and you want to make sure that they're squared away with their gun, you can actually measure that group size, to make sure that they're dialed in. And a great feature is using that shot group calculator. You can actually walk in your target, your optics to your target. We always say, somewhere between 3 and 4 shots. You're not just, looking at it like, oh yeah, come over left. Like we can actually put it in a conversion. So if you're using an MOA or a mil scope, actually make that conversion of, okay, that's 2.4 minute of angle instead of just like clicking it till you, bottom out and then shooting again.
Click it till you make it,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just at 200 yards. Matt can attest to this. We took our whole company out a couple weeks ago and, just dove into the products and we were just shooting at 100 yards. But being able to tack targets up at 9 in the morning and shoot until 4 in the afternoon on the same targets. And we're talking, some of the guns shoot, sub minute groups and, being able to put notes on there, different cartridges, different calibers, different guns, different shooters, all in the notes and record that information. It just changes the whole experience when you're at the range. And in my experience with guiding, I love to use that at 100 yards when we're verifying shooters. The thing that we got to talking about was my involvement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Youth Program. And that's the first thing we do when we usually take girls that are 10 to 17 out. Sometimes they're shooting Grandpappy's old, 30-06, or they're shooting, some souped up new gun. But we use those cameras, we put them on the range, and we tell them to shoot. But being able to, on your phone, say, this was your impact, and this is what you need to come over, because they don't always see that sight picture through the optic like you can do on a phone. And it's always challenging as a spotter to stand next to a shooter, when you're looking through different optics and be like, okay, that dot that's right next to the other dot that's, on the 5 ring, being able to show them on a phone, like, this what you're looking at? Yep, that's what I'm looking at. And then make that adjustment. So a long-winded answer just to say, it's a time saver. It's efficient, especially in a time where ammo costs a lot. You're not just throwing ammo out there. Just shouldn't take you a whole box to sight in a target.
Yeah. Now, did you grow up hunting and stuff, Matt?
No, so I grew up in the Midwest, and so hunting and shooting was a normal practice around the areas that I lived in. And so, but a lot of what I was doing was a lot of skeet shooting personally. So I'm coming in from a different world and perspective, coming into working with Longshot and just as an observer, even though I work with this great team as an observer, seeing how good this system works, I, I'm just kind of in awe of it because of, we look at what industry that we're in and seeing that nobody's really doing it the way we are, executing as good as we're doing. And so it's just cool to see, you know, Clay and seeing this thing that he built. And he's such a tech savvy guy, and he can look into, he made this thing very robust and work. But as me, as the observer walking in, like I get to see that I can start from, you know, point A at the most beginner level, log on and try this system out as a beginner, and I can still make sense of it all. And it's still a great tool for me. And then as you start to dive into the product more, you're like, oh, I can mark my shots, I can calculate my groups and all this stuff. So the thing that I think is interesting about the product and just every camera system that we have, you it can be as customized as you want. It can be as bare minimum as you're teaching, you know, someone who's a beginner or who's young. You can make it just, hey, we just want to see a live feed of our shots, and that's great. We execute that really, really well. But then as you start to get more into the hobby and the experience of shooting, it can go as deep as you want. And there's so many features, especially when you dive into the app, there are so many features involved. So I come in from a different perspective than these guys. These guys are like real in it and know the details, and I'm more the beginner. And this system really works for both parties. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, just you saying that is awesome, because I think about this fact that, I take out, I teach classes with people who are in the class. I've got brand new people who have never touched a gun before in the class. And in that same class, I've got guys who have hunted in Africa and they own, 500 different guns. And they're all coming into the same class. And it's crazy when I always try to find products that can appease to both sides. And I think this is one of those products that is huge for the fact that it works well with everybody. And one of the things that really caught me, which I've been looking into a lot, and we got to talk about getting me one of these, is I can't tell you after every single shooter that I'm walking down 200 yards to put up a new target, because like you were saying, there's all the different holes all in it. And when you have a new hunter or even a veteran hunter where you're sitting there going, okay, well, like you were saying, it's three lines down over to the right as the spotter, and they can't see it through their optics because, again, I'm looking through an 80 power, spotting scope. They're looking through their, 9x8, and so they can't see the difference. They can't do it. And then I'm telling them, okay, well, we got to bring it down 23 clicks, or we have to bring it over. And to them, it doesn't make sense. And for me to be able to have a screen with all the different colors where I can walk in something, I think is huge, because you can take that veteran hunter or that experienced hunter and say, hey, okay, this is what your gun did. Because, again, sort of like Cameron was saying, every time you come to the class, the very first thing we do is we go to the range. If you bring your own gun or if you shoot one of our guns, I don't care. I'm not going to sit in a blind with you or sit in a car with you, a high rack, and drive around and put a weapon in your hand unless I know that you're proficient enough to ethically take that animal and be comfortable behind the optics. And so I think, to me, that's one of the biggest selling points that I saw, was just being able to address a problem, fix a problem immediately, versus, okay, well, let's go back. Let's walk down to the range. Let's grab that piece of paper. Let me sit here and try to explain to you what I was talking about on this piece of paper, that when you get it back, it's a 20-inch circle, but out there it looks like a little 10-inch dot, So how do you explain that? So I think that was a huge thing. So
Yeah, you you said two things that I think are super interesting, and Matt did a phenomenal job of kind of explaining the different ranges of that because I see it when I do demos all the time. You've got both ends of the spectrum, and I think this industry, uh, just to pile on with what you felt at SHOT Show, does a really poor job of accepting innovation.
100%.
It's like this is how we've always done it, and these are our colors, and this is the spectrum that we accept and like to play in. And we don't really like to bring in new things because this is how we've always done it. And so that's been a struggle as a point of entry as a smaller company, a new company with an innovative type of product is, regardless of your spectrum of, your expert shooter or your expert shooter, and I see it all the time, they're like, I did not know this existed. What have I been doing all this time? To your new shooter who didn't know any better, but is appreciative of the ability, in real time to see where they're hitting. So it's been really fun to see, both ends of the spectrum, like Clay, who's the reigning king of 1 mile shooting champion, uses our system, to do everything he does. And then, a new shooter who's just using it because he doesn't want to walk 100 yards. It fits the whole end of the spectrum.
Which I think is kind of funny that you said that, because I was just talking to a buddy yesterday about innovation within it. And I said, it's really funny when you look at these guys who don't want to do new cooking methods with food, with wild game. They don't want to use new knives. They got their grandpa's buck knife. But they're okay with using the newest and best optics. They're okay with using the newest and best bow and arrow, right? They're not using the standard old school recurve or the metal, strings anymore, like when Bear first came out in the 80s, where it was all literally metal strings. They've evolved with that, but when it comes to products which make us better hunters, like your guys's, Longshot target cameras, or getting a more effective, better knife, or learning how to cook wild game that's not just dried out, wrapped in bacon and jalapenos, it becomes like, oh no, this is the way we always do it. This is the way the hunting industry. It's like you're okay with innovation and growth when it comes to the newest and coolest gun that's going to make you look badass, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty of learning and becoming a better hunter or a better shooter, no, I don't need that. I'll just go ahead and look through my binoculars every time I take a shot. So
Yeah. And it seems that, and I'm sure it's probably similar in the cooking industry, from a equipment standpoint. It's like the innovative companies, the newer ones, they have a cool idea. Big conglomerates come around and are like, well, it's cheaper for us to buy that company, buy that technology, than to develop it ourselves. And then now they own this thing that they didn't help create, and they don't really know how to better it anymore. And a lot of the cool stuff like dies on the vine.
yeah, one of the new things we saw at SHOT Show also was a company called Aiming, and it's a digital night vision style scope, right? It's got the phosphorus white, it's got the heat, it's got the green, it's all the thermal things you can have in it. And one of their big things was people keep coming to them to try to buy them out, and they're saying the same thing you. They're like, no, because you don't believe in the product, you don't know the product, you don't understand the product, and their whole goal is that single shot. Sort of like what Burris came out, the Eliminator, right? Take a shot, it'll autocorrect where your shot is.
All right.
But for the thermal aspect world, it's new and upcoming because you can shoot it in the middle of the day, right? They've got the settings where you can set it down where you can actually shoot in the middle of the day and see your targets. Where a lot of these old thermals and stuff, you can't shoot during the day because you can't see, right? It's bright, it's light, and so for you guys also, I thought it was, like I said, thought it was cool. You guys were just being there and being a product, and that you guys were ran by guys who use the product. One of the things that I find going to trade shows is you can walk up to a booth and the person you're talking to has no idea anything about that product, right? They know the piece of paper they got to read off when someone comes up.
They read the manual.
And or you walk up to a booth with the guy I was with, Cody with West Texas Outfitters, you mentioned, it was his first time there, and he was like, "Oh, this is a really cool product. I really want to talk to the people." And he walked up, and the people behind the booth look at you, and they see your little green media tag, and they turn around. They don't care. They don't care about you because you're not going to buy their product, and they're only making a sales commission, right? Because they have no investment in the product. And so it was always fun to see the smaller companies when they would just approach you. Like when we walked up and you were just like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And then we started sharing pictures and we started looking at different things and we started having a good conversation. And I think that's where we're really kind of missing out in this new world that we're in, is everyone's in it for $1 and no one's in it for, the passion of it. And I can really feel your passion with the product and, kind of what you do. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And it helps that I get to wear the sales and the marketing hat. So, I mean, I can see how it gets disconjointed in other teams, and I know how a lot of those other teams work. Of, I'm trying to make a sale, and you're impeding that. So, SHOT Show for us is just as important about connections than it is, making that sale. You actually can't sell at SHOT Show. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. You can take
Yeah.
orders, but you can't sell
Right.
it. You can't sell
Yeah.
it to the. I cannot walk out with one of your products. But
Yeah, so and that was a big thing. Matt has been working with us part-time for a year. And he actually started January 3rd with us full-time. We finally convinced him to leave his day job. And so when we found out that, like, hey, it's January 3rd, we're kind of asking, but more like, hey, we got you a plane ticket to Vegas. We want you to come see this industry, just dive in with both feet, get a feel for it, from a branding perspective, and really see, his feedback was very similar to yours. Like, everything looks the same. Some of the logos even look the same. Like, how is that not a trademark? And, just try to help tell a story about our brand that is not watered down and different. It's unique to us and what we do and what our mission is.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit. I know that Matt had to bounce and he's supposed to be back in a little bit, but let's kind of talk about more about what you're doing with Texas Fish and Game, Parks and Wildlife, all that good stuff with these youth, because you do the same sort of style classes that I do. And how have you been able to use this product to kind of enhance that and get these young girls excited about going out and shooting? Because you're even hanging up dead animals like I am, and you're going through the whole process of turning that animal into dinner. So how has this product helped you in that, and kind of more along the line of how can people that are living in Texas get involved with the program that you're running with them?
Yeah, so I got there's a ranch here in Texas that I help manage, and we got the landowner to, essentially donate his land to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Youth Program, which is a program that exists inside of Texas Parks and Wildlife. And, it's subsidized by your license. So if you are a youth in the state of Texas and purchase a hunting license, you can apply for these programs. And it's, on private land, some public land all over the state. But it's guided by advocates. Very rarely, there's usually like an employee who is leading the program, but most of the time it's volunteers. And so 6 years ago now, we put in parameters of, we were looking to bring in young girls anywhere from 10 to 17. And they have to bring a guardian, either mom, dad, aunt and uncle, grandpa, grandma, accompany them. And we felt like, at the time, I didn't have any daughters, but had a wife who didn't really grow up in that realm, had access to it, but wasn't really her thing, and really just wanted to open up, a deer camp for girls, if you will. And so the first year, it was very structured. At the time, 5 years ago, I was, just doing the Longshot thing on the side, kind of pro staffing, and, when they went to the range, I found out they have, a range master, and they've got to qualify their guns at 100 yards before they even go. And I watched it as a bystander, and I was like, there is a better way to do this. And it took like 4 hours. Like, once they actually got their eye relief right and they got it in the scope, then they, like I mentioned, Grandpappy's 30-06, they'd fire it and it'd, blow them back. And then they took them 5 minutes to find the sight picture again, and even longer for the RSO to tell them what bullet hole was theirs. And so after watching that for like 2 hours, I actually had a Gen 2 Longshot camera in my truck, and was like, if it's not stepping on anyone's toes, I'd like to offer something up to this range day. Put the camera out there, put my tablet up, and in, I don't know, 3 shots, the RSO was actually using my tablet as a reference, put down the spotting scope, and just was watching that. And it was like a light bulb for me, because I could, not only the RSO was using that as a resource, but the kid who was searching for 30 minutes to try to find which hole was there was sitting right there on a tablet, like, oh, that was mine. Okay, well, that was my second one, so I need to keep doing this and doing that. Um, and it took a fraction of the time. And so fast forward each year, last year we bought an 18-foot cargo trailer that we outfitted with screens, and it's fully wrapped in our, orange and black. And it's kind of our show and go for competitions and marketing events. And so I rolled out there and stuck two 55-inch TVs on the side of this thing. And so now you got the tablet on the firing line that the kid can see, the RSO can see, but then the 25 other people who are standing around kicking rocks can sit there and watch in real time, and it's a whole interactive part. And they can see and celebrate a good shot or a good group, and actually be part of that experience. So that was the shooting part. And then we go to the hunting part, and kind of the same story 5 years ago. This is a managed land piece of property with the state of Texas. And so if you're not familiar with that, it's called the MLD program. And you work with a biologist and you do a bunch of surveys, and they basically tell you from a biologist standpoint what's a healthy buck doe ratio, and number of mouths on a specific piece of property. And so, it could be a large amount of tags that you got to fill each year, anywhere from 20 to 90. And we like to use those tags to, give to these hunters so that they can shoot, any doe they want, some coal bucks, pigs, that kind of thing. And they had like a structure in the program the first year. It's like, well, we're going to field dress an animal, and they lay one small South Texas doe out, 95 pounds, and the girls are timid, and there's always a couple overzealous dads that jump in there and they're, well, I'll just do it. And fast forward an hour, and I'm watching two dads field dress a doe, and the girls are off playing tag, off on the ranch. And so I kind of stepped in and was like, hey, I get that you've got like a program structure you want to follow, but we are in Texas. We do have a phenomenal cleaning station with electric winches and gambrels and the whole deal. Like, if you want to do this, fine, but we're losing the kids' attention and they're not even into this anymore.
Yeah.
What if I stepped in and showed them how I do it? I mean, I'm cleaning 20 to 40 animals a year. I'm not a professional by any means, but I can skin, gut, quarter, and break down a deer pretty quick. And so, yeah, that was the fast forward 5 years. That was the picture you saw. I've got a lot of the girls that, I can do it in a short enough time where they're still, paying attention. And then I clean one, and sometimes we're hanging five at a time at this cleaning station. And I let the dads kind of learn some tips and tricks, and then I turn it over, and we'll clean 5 to 15 animals at one cleaning set, and I'll just kind of pop around and answer questions and kind of give feedback. Um, but it was one of those, like, I probably tanked the program because I use my electric winch, and I was using my cleaning gloves, and I was using my Havalon replacement blade, and my gut hook, and um, then I really got the eye rolls when I busted out the Sawzall. I was like, y'all can do it however you want, but in the sake of efficiency, just watch.
Yeah.
So
No, I think
it's been such a rewarding program.
no, it's huge because, again, I've done stuff with Texas Park and Wildlife as well. We did one down in Tilden, Texas, where they had one of the ag classes. So it was high school ag class, juniors, seniors, and they all came out. They didn't shoot all the animals because they only had a day. And so I went out and shot like 11 doe for them that morning. Like me, my dad, and somebody else were just like going, just shooting every doe that came to a feeder, and throw them in the back of the truck and did the same thing. And it's so crazy when you give a kid the responsibility of dinner, or the responsibility of ethically taking care of something, they want to do it. Kids desire structure. There's a reason that teachers who are strict and nice are the kids' favorite teachers. Like my youngest, I've got 2 girls. So when you do all the stuff with girls, it really hit my heart because I'm always doing stuff with all the little girls, because all the little boys get left out. We even did a waterfowl thing this past weekend, and it was like all these little boys running around, and like the 3 little girls that were there and their dads, like everyone's like, oh, there's the girls. Those girls outshot the crap out of all those little boys. But you look at this methodical thing that kids really want to learn how to do, and you take that away from them by being a dad or being a parent who's like, oh, I'm going to go in and do this, or this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And you actually give them the ability, like pulling the trigger. How exciting is it when those kids can sit there and watch someone else pull the trigger and get excited with them? It builds confidence. It builds encouraging. It builds them getting ready for their shot, that they know that everyone's going to be encouraging and watching them through your guys' program with these big 50-inch TVs. It's huge. And then being able to go over and butcher down a deer and feel the accomplishment of doing that themselves. And, knowing that if they screw it up, it's just another meatball. Don't worry about it. Like, we're still going to eat the meat. If you cut that wrong, that's fine. It's going to go in the grind pile. Don't worry about it. We took out a bunch of youth in San Antonio for an inner city program. They had a bunch of MLD tags at this ranch. This guy just bought, it's like a 40,000 acre high fence that had not been managed properly.
Wow,
and
okay.
The guy bought it and literally did the surveys, did the helicopter surveys. They came in, they're like, hey, you have to kill like 250 bucks and like 400 doe. Right? It was one of those deals where he's like, dude, there's no way. So we brought in these kids and we're like, shoot anything that walks. If it's brown, it's down type aspect. And I think those kids, they shot like 47 deer in 2 days, 30 hogs. And then we sat there and they processed it all. And I sat down with this one little boy from San Antonio, inner city. He said this is the first time he's ever seen grass. Okay. And
wow.
when he's out there, like he's like feeling the grass, and he's like 13 years old. Like, what do you do? He's like, I've never felt grass. And I'm like, what? He goes, well, my school is a parking lot. I live in the inner city. Like, I walk to school. I see weeds, but I've never like felt grass. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that's just weird for me to think of. But there's those kids. And then he shot his deer, and we're sitting in a blind together, 13-year-old Hispanic kid, and he starts weeping like a little girl, like me. Like I'm weeping too. He's just like sobbing. I was like, what's wrong, man? And I go, are you taking it hard? Are you this? He goes, no, I'm just excited because, can I tell you something and you don't make fun of me? I was like, yeah, 100%, bud. He goes, the only time we get meat is when we go to McDonald's. How does that pull at your heartstrings when a kid says that at 13 years old?
Yeah,
And
I mean that.
And I was like,
that
what?
makes me think of my kids. Like
Right. And I was
They
like,
only know wild game.
yeah, it's my kids too. Like last night, my girl's going down the freezer pulling out, we want this for this week. I'm okay. But he goes, we only get meat when we go to McDonald's. And I'm like, huh? He's like, well, we get burgers and chicken nuggets, but we don't eat meat. He's like, we get hamburger helper and we don't put in the hamburger. And so he shot like 5 deer. And we're sitting there and I was like, okay, we're going to cut out steaks. Or he goes, can we just make it all grind? I go, yeah, why? He's like, well, because I'm just thinking, like, we can have tacos with it. We can have burgers with it. We can have, hamburger helper with hamburger in it. And for a little kid who got so excited to shoot a deer and grind it up, like, you're telling me that I don't know. That's just one of those moments that I'll always remember in my life of it's really kind of changed my perspective as a hunter, as an educator, and, products like these, because I think about it now, we were at that range, like you said, we got the range at like 10 o'clock. We were there till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, getting all these kids sighted in, because you got to shoot one at a time or two at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the range. Yeah. And then those other kids, the same thing, dude. They were throwing rocks at cans. They were punching each other. They were doing this. They were doing that. And to think about having a product that would have kept them engaged in that would have been absolutely huge. So kudos on you for doing that, because it's one of my passions in education, which you follow me and you see all my stuff. So it's huge. And I always tell everybody too, getting the kids involved is great, but having their parents there is even greater, because if you can build the bond between the two of them, it's going to last a lifetime. If you just take out a kid and their parents aren't into it or excited about it, it's going to die,
Yeah, I think probably with this program, then the Texas Parks and Wildlife does such a phenomenal job. And I don't think it's an official partnership with the Dallas Safari Club, but a lot of the females that are part of it have affiliation with the Dallas Safari Club, either as members, volunteers, actual employees. And so for this program, it is guided by females.
Awesome.
And so they bring in, they pair off. So a female guide for every female hunter. And that's my favorite part.
Oh, huge.
Is I'm an agent for the ranch. So, I coordinate where everyone's going and do my cleaning process, but I'm not actually sitting in the blinds with them. So it's usually one of the lady guides, the kid, and then the guardian. And it is so, we always break the ice around the campfire the first night. Just, what do you do? What kind of hunting have you done? Who got you into hunting? How does it carry into your adult life? And I always find it so cool that, you've got women in their 40s, 30s, 20s that are like role models for these girls that, their dad got them into hunting, their brother got into hunting. They didn't want to be left out, so they went, with them. And you can kind of see these girls like, oh, I've never met a woman who was a hunter before. And it's like not just one, it's 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they're all decked out in Sitka and they have all the new gun. Like, you're like, oh, this is not just something they picked up some gear on the way down here. Like these ladies, like, they're incorporated with it.
Yeah.
And my favorite part is the pictures that come after, the bonds that, when you shoot your first deer, they're sending pictures, they're, crying, and
Yeah.
everyone's like afraid to talk the first half day. And by Sunday, there's tears as they're leaving. And, it's one of those things of, I have 2 girls, almost 5 and almost 3. And so I got to see this from before I had kids and was like, okay, I, committed myself to, at the first opportunity, my kids are not going to be the 17-year-old who's, about to leave for college, but got this, her dad invited her on this thing. I had my oldest in a blind with me at 2. And I just got my wife was out of town, so I took my oldest and my youngest together in a blind, which, if you've ever done that, is challenging.
Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah, my youngest kept saying, "Daddy, why don't we see deer?" And she sang it like that loud. and my oldest would look at me like, Dad, Maddie is so loud. Um, so we shot a pig who, I think just felt bad for us. Um, but it's something that wasn't like a weird thing for them. Like
Yeah.
my 4.5-year-old, when I'm trying to sneak out to go to the deer blind at the ranch, she's got one eye open. She's like, Dad, you going hunting? I'm getting ready. Like, what kind of 5-year-old gets ready at 5:30 in the morning to go sit in the deer blind? Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and
I
that's
couldn't have boys, but here I'm trying to raise a couple girls, right?
well, I mean, like I said, I have 2 girls also, no boys, and it's the same thing. We're big, huge bird hunters here in Southern California because it's not like Texas where you can just kind of go out and lease. It's a lot harder for the big game, but same deal. Like they've been in the field with me dove hunting since they were old enough to go sit out there, and I have all the pictures. But my oldest one, she during COVID got her hunting license. She said, I think because in California you got to wait till you're older. And but this year we went out dove hunting, and she's been practicing her little butt off with her shotgun. And it was opening morning, and I'm out there with 30 of my buddies, and Emma is the girl in the field. She just turned 12, and she's out there, and all my buddies are, they're talking. She's out there in the same mix, like, oh, you suck. You're gonna, she's trash talking, having a good time. And I remember the first bird came flying down opening morning, right? I didn't even have my shotgun because I'm like, this is all. I mean, I can tag out in 10 minutes if I wanted to because it's like Argentina where we go. The birds are just insane. And all this bird flies down the entire line, and not one dude takes a shot. They're like, Emma, 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 Emma. She lifts her gun, she follows it, she pulls the trigger, boom. I mean, beautiful. It just drops, and the whole entire field erupts, right? Of all these grown men erupting and cheering her on, and she looks at me, and then she looks at the dog, and I go, send him. And she sends the dog, and the dog goes out, gets it, and her face and excitement that morning was like something as a dad and a hunter. I've taken out 400 new hunters on new hunts, but the moment like your child pulls the trigger was just, and then I'm like, all right. And she's like, well, I'm going to beat you. And I was like, oh, okay. Now it's on. I load my gun.
She's a hunter for life now.
Yeah. And, and so she ended up, I think she ended up shooting 5, and I told her I'll shoot anything that flies behind us. She shoots anything in front. So she was getting all mad because the birds kept flying behind. So I was like, turn around. And they started flying in front. But it's one of those moments that same deal was the next morning, that night she's like, Dad, I'm just so tired. Cause dove hunting, you get up before the sun up, and it's not like Texas where you got to, some spots you got to hunt at noon. Like you can start hunting from sun up or half an hour before sunrise. And I'm getting out of the trailer cause we're camping out by where it is. And it's the same deal. So all of a sudden, like I'm trying to be real quiet the second morning. And she's like, hold on, I'm putting on my pants, as she's up in her bunk in the trailer. I was like, no, I thought you wanted to sleep in. No, my pants are, I'm almost there, Dad. I'm almost there. And then her little sister's like, yeah, I'm not going out this morning. But it's just that moment of like when your girl gets it. And then she goes here to school. I live in Orange County, California. And she's going to school, and she takes deer meat and hog meat and, pheasant to school. And all her little friends are like, oh, can we try it? Oh, can we have this? Oh, like she brought heart jerky, and all her friends are eating deer heart jerky. None of them have ever even left Orange County, so.
That is funny. I just got back in town from a show, and I got home when my oldest was at school, and I literally just did red stag jerky last week, and there was a big gallon-sized baggie left open on the counter. I was like, well, what the heck? Like, who would leave this open? So, put it back in the fridge. It just went on my day, and I pick her up at school, and she's like, oh, I'm hungry. Can we, get my bag out and, open it? And she pulls out a, Ziploc of jerky. And I mean, this is like, she turns 5 in July. So she's still little.
She's little.
And I was like, is that my jerky? And she's like, yeah, I had Mom open a package. I took some to school for a snack, and she's just chewing on this like pepper jerky that's like borderline spicy. But yeah, I had a story that came to mind when you were telling me that, that ties in, what you and I love to do on the cooking side. My wife studied abroad in Italy for college for a little while, and met friends of all walks of life. And so some close friends of ours live in upstate New York. and they travel down. They love Texas. It's like, I'm going to come down here to America and drink Shinerbach beer and have
Yeah.
barbecue and, drive around in a truck. And so I love to play it up for them. And so they were here, and I love to fish. I fish South Texas a lot in the flats. And so, I asked my daughter, it's like, okay, what should we cook them? She's like, deer and fish. And so I get out some deer and do a spin on like a barbacoa. And we put in tacos and make tortilla and make tacos out of it, and then I do the redfish on the half shell. And so they're eating it and they're loving it. And my daughter speaks up. She's like, "Do you like that fish and that daddy caught that fish?" And then she's like, "Well, what about the taco?" He's like, "Oh, do you like the taco? That's a deer. My daddy and I shot that deer." And just like watching, some New Yorkers, their face like, "You're four.
Yeah.
Why why are you teaching me about culinary, outdoor cooking?"
Well,
Um, but it's been fun.
yeah, the same thing with my daughters is it's funny because trash truck going by, nice. That's why we do podcasts live. You hear that trash truck? Let's wait a second.
I hear the brake squeaking now.
Nice. Anyone that's listening, that's a trash truck. I'm going to leave it in. I'm not going to edit it because I don't feel like editing it. So enjoy the trash truck.
It's not as loud on this end.
Oh, good. So one of I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about food, culinary. So my daughters, my wife laughs because they act like food critics. So I create a new recipe. I bring it out for dinner, set it on the dinner table, and my daughters literally, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, or she just turned 10. And they'll get out a piece of paper and start like critiquing it. Well, they'll like put a piece. So, Dad, we think that
That
it's
is fantastic.
like, well, this is only a 4-star out of a 5-star, sir. And I'm like, just eat your freaking.
And you just poured your heart into that.
I'm like, just eat that. They're like, the picture, Dad, next time the picture needs a little more of this or a little more of that. And I'm like, shut up. But it's funny because we're actually building that within to our children. We're teaching them that food isn't fast, that it's not McDonald's, it's not Taco Bell, it's not, Whataburger and In-N-Out, that by taking the time to create this food, and we sit down every Sunday after church and we meal plan for the entire week, and then I go grocery shopping, and we'll hit up farmers markets for fresh produce. And it's fun when they get to choose their meal, because every week they choose one meal that they have to help cook, and it's crazy what their minds can come up with. I remember my oldest was like, this was last year, hey, I think I want smoked rabbit macaroni and cheese.
How about that?
I go, what? She's like, well, I think we should take one of I was looking, because I've got 2 giant freezers, and it's all, this one's all red meat, this one's all fish and birds and other white meats, right? And she's like, yeah, I saw there was a giant rabbit in there. So what if we portion that out, we smoke it, we make a homemade mac and cheese, we pull that, we put it all together, we put like, can we fry some onions on top of it? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, that sounds delicious. Like, that sounds awesome. But what other kid is thinking of doing that versus, can we just have chicken nuggets?
Yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to us as dads raising daughters and treating them like kids and not treating them like, they are our princesses, but our princesses need to get dirty and need to rip their dresses and need to, feel comfortable. So when they do go into the real world, they're not, afraid of life. Like my daughter's, she had a sleepover, and one of her friends is like, wait, you guys have chores? She's like, you don't have chores? And they're like, no. She's like, we have a chore list. I'm like, yeah, you have a chore list. Like, teaching you how to, be a part of the real world. So anyway, you and I could probably sit here and talk about culinary and kids all day long, which maybe we'll do on another podcast. I don't care. Maybe I'll come out in one of your classes and you teach the butchering and I'll teach cooking.
That's one thing that I have really just hard pressed over the last, really this season. I would always do my own processing, but I could never figure out sausage. So I'd send it to a local guy who made great sausage, but now I've kind of like, well, I just bought a big grinder and, got a smoker. I'm like, no, I'm like hard pressing into this, and it's freaking expensive. Like, you shoot as many deer a year as I have, like just to get sausage made
Oh yeah.
out of them and basic processing, like, I mean, that's a pretty big investment.
Well,
So,
yeah. Well, you and I talked about Meat Week, right? And you said you want to know more about Meat Week. You know, last year we shot 18 deer in 2 days for this Meat Week, and we processed it all. And it was funny because we're at the deer lease, and we're knocking out. And we're making. I think we made 400 pounds of bratwurst and sausage. We
oh,
made
nice.
and we made 50 pounds of summer sausage. We made 25 pounds of jalapeno. Anyway, a ton of every deer was just processed. And all these guys were coming in, a couple other guys at least, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are wasting all your time, wasting all your energy. You're wasting the whole day." And I was like, "You just shot 5 deer. How much money is it going to take for you to go get what you need to do?" Like, "Oh, it's like $125 a deer." I go, "You know how I go? This grinder right here costs $300, so that's 2 deer. This sausage stuffer right here cost me $125, so that's
First of all, no one's paying $125 to get one deer processed unless you're like getting the whole thing into breakfast sausage. Like,
I have no idea how much
just
it costs.
the
I've only taken to a butcher 10 years ago once.
like a basic trim package is usually like $85, and that's like to break it down. And like if you were to get the whole thing into hamburger meat, like no steaks, no bacon,
Oh wow,
like, I mean, if you get like I used to get one deer a year processed into sausage, like $450.
seriously?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I've kind of like, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself and figure this thing out. And
well,
um, honestly, the YouTube guys, Beard to Butchers, um, I kind of watched their programs, and when they started putting out their DIY packages, where
yeah.
you could buy the cheese and the ingredients and the cures and all that, I was like, shit, I'm going to try this myself.
It's so easy.
Uh,
It's so easy. Have you done it yet?
Kind of. I did a run of snack sticks. So, like I said, I jumped into this, and I had two red stag and an 8-point whitetail buck that I processed all at the same time. I mean,
A lot.
it was no, yeah, 600 pounds of meat. And I pull out my wife's KitchenAid mixer with the grinder feature.
No. And you
And
and
I
with that you can't get if there's any sinew on that at all, it gets
Oh,
cooked.
just tries to, yeah, I had it running on 9, which is like the highest level, and that thing's just going. I ran that thing wide open 3 nights for 5 hours,
No.
and I feel like I did the meat a disservice, like trying to do the, when you send it back in the fine grind, and then it's like mush.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did a run of jalapeno cheese snack sticks. And then to finish off my total amateur hour, went outside. I didn't have a smoker yet. I had a propane grill. And so I did an offset heat, burner on one side low, and then stacked up the other side, and then got one of those pellet um,
Oh, smokers
pellet
that you put the
tubes,
pellets in
yeah,
and light on
smoker
fire.
tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they came out edible, and I did literally everything wrong imaginable. Um, so I've already fixed that. Gotten a few pieces here and there, but I've actually got two red stag hanging in a walk-in freezer as we speak. That
Nice.
um, I go out of town this weekend, so I might go get them tomorrow. Um, but doing that on the KitchenAid, I've got a 1 horsepower dual grind coming.
Nice.
Um,
Which one did you get?
so the Meet Your Maker one.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. I love their product. I have
That was gonna be my next question. If that's what you're running.
Yep. I've been running them since before they were even out. Like they had sent me free product to try and like review. And now it's just again, it's one of those deals that you just can't. Like Lim makes a great product, but I think for what the cost of you're getting, like you can get the 1.5 horsepower, meter or meat that you can get with like a 1 horsepower Lim. And they're made for what we're doing. Like that's
I hope the dual grind is not too good to be true.
oh, it's phenomenal.
I mean, that's what I went with. I was like, I'm gonna take the lick now
Yeah.
because
No,
I
it's
hate doing the extra grind where you're pushing in
yep. No, it's
already ground meat.
no, it's awesome, and because it has that double blade that goes through.
Hmm.
But I'm heading to meat week this week at the ranch, and I always bring all my stuff. So they actually sent me stuff to keep down at the ranch now. So I'll have a 1.5 horsepower down there. I'll have the meat mixer, the 25-pound meat mixer, so when I throw in all my seasonings. And then
you need to tell me if that's worth it.
Oh, it is 100% versus you doing it by your hand, and it hooks into your grinder. So you take off all your stuff, you put your auger into it, you turn it on, and it augers everything, and you put all your meat and spices and seasonings versus by hand.
So me just making meat patties is a thing of the past.
Yeah, and what I would recommend is going and getting a foot pedal.
I got one.
Okay, so yeah, foot pedal makes
it's on
it
the
easy
way
because you can stop and start and stop and start. And the sausage stuffer is great if you're doing it by yourself. If you've got your wife or someone helping you, putting it through the meat, like the grinder has all the attachments to do sausages, it goes way faster. But I found when I'm by myself, I can really kind of take the time to crank, twist.
Yeah, I did. That was the thing I bought first. Thinking I had it figured out on the grinder side, and that was a mistake. But at least I got that.
It's fun, and I know you were talking about the Bearded Butcher guys, phenomenal stuff. There's also a company out there right now called PS Seasonings. So P as in people, S as in Sam Seasonings. It's actually the hat I'm wearing. But I've been part of them for 15 years, and their whole thing is making every sausage flavor, just if you go look at their website, you're going to be blown away. And they also have kits, so you can buy that whole kit. It has the casings, the seasonings, the cures, everything you would need for that kit in there. They also have
so you can put in a good word for me?
Yeah, 100%. I'll actually talk to them.
PS Seasonings. Yep. I'm in.
Yeah, I'll actually send them a link. We'll talk later off air, but it's phenomenal stuff. They also have where you can buy like 25-pound bags. So if you're doing like 100 pounds of something, you can dump that whole thing in there. That's primarily what I use right now on everything. But you can go to their sausages. They've got like 150 different sausages. Every bratwurst, every spicy
sausage making kits.
And those are like box kits, but you can go in and just buy the bag of seasoning and the bag of cure.
Oh, okay.
Those kits are nice because they come with the casings, the cures, the seasoning, and it's made for like 25 pounds of sausages, like everything for 25 pounds of sausages.
That's what I'm looking for.
And they've got jerky kits, snack stick kits, you name it. Helped develop a lot with them over the years. They just came out with a new cherry chipotle snack stick that's not on the market yet. But they sent me one to try this weekend. So, because I head to Texas on Tuesday, and I'll be there for Tuesday till Monday, kind of filling those tags and butchering. So,
tell me again where that place is in Texas.
Comstock. So, let's finish this up, and then you and I can talk later on this. But kind of tell people where they can find Longshot targets, where they can find you on social websites, all that good jazz.
Yeah, so longshotcameras.com is our website. Longshot Cam on Instagram, and Longshot Cameras on YouTube. And that's one of the things that, I'm really looking forward to with you and your followers is, just making some good, holy content. And honestly, that was the thing that we didn't touch on, but, kind of was the, from Clay, our CEO's perspective, when we were, Matt and I were all geeked out about, hey, this is what, we've got a bunch of cool opportunities for collaborations. And, he took it from the realm of like, okay, whose beliefs are aligned with like the mission that our company's on, and, furthering the word and, kind of bringing followers and using our product to spread the message. And I know that, when I showed him your page, and, I think Christ followers, you're in your bio, like right under your name, like the first thing before anything else. So I think that says a lot about you and your content, and
appreciate it.
I think something that, we're going to be able to do a lot of cool things moving forward. And, obviously our companies and our brands align, at the very foundation. So
perfect. Well, please go check them out. Longshot Cam on social media. Give them a like, give them a follow. And until then, my friends, go cook something and enjoy it.